the fight against cholera and how health provision is a critical subject for government. Now, in Accra, we've had a demolition of a community called Mensa Guinea. Of course, it's an area which has been illegal for a number of years now. Nothing has been done. But we've had a number of cases of cholera. As a result of that, now we've had a distraction to people's livelihoods because they occupied places illegally. Would you say that holistically, how we're tackling the issue on the policy side is the best way?
Roland.
Yes, sir.
This looks like a movie we've watched over and over
What
again.
movie? A lot more people have died as a result of cholera.
No, the movie is that when there is a crisis...
Just in excess of 10,000 people have been infected with cholera.
The movie is that when there is a crisis, there is a sudden knee-jerk reaction from government. And we actually lose sight of the actual cause of the problem. You understand? No one wants people to die from cholera. No one wants to see our cities fraught with shanty towns and slums. But the question is, why do we have the slums? If government is able to ask that question, if they're able to do that proper exegesis, then they will understand why we have slums. It's because our housing policy has failed woefully. We're in deficit of over 1 million houses for Ghanaians. So if you find people settling in such places, it's a manifestation of the failure of policy. But then again, problems arise. When we want to tackle such problems, is the best way using the militancy, going out to break structures and leave people at the mercy of the weather and mosquitoes at night? Is that how we want to treat the electorates that go to the polls to vote for us at the end of every term? No, that is not the right way. I have said, and I've actually written an article on this, that if we want to tackle the issue of slums, it is not about when there is a crisis, they will send bulldozers and officers of the law to go and actually detain and destroy homes. No. Bring the stakeholders on board. We have the Environmental Protection Agency, we have the Ministry of Works and Housing, we have the AMA themselves, and then whatever slums we have in Accra or
elsewhere. This is an interesting point you made.
But
the point is that people should know that when they migrate from their communities into more urban areas, the places available are not supposed to be occupied illegally.
No, I beg to differ. Then again, last week I made that point, that the institution of the Metropolitan Authority is not there to be reactive. Theirs is to be proactive.
So what they should have prevented...
Exactly, because even according to our laws, if someone settles on a patch of land, you understand, and pays bills for 12 months and above, you cannot just move in and dislodge the person. You have failed to make sure that that person does not occupy that place. And in the law of tort, it is called contributory negligence on the part of the AMA and on the part of the landowners. So they have no right whatsoever under God's good earth to go out there and displace those people.
Well,
seriously,
it's an interesting subject that has always caught the attention of many people. The point is, people go and occupy places illegally, but because they have rights as humans, then the rights issue always arises. But at what point do we crack the whip and say, the decision has to be taken, and has to be taken with a strong hand, but in good faith?
Yeah, before I go on to that one, I just want to congratulate the President and to say that, yes, it is in order that we all contribute towards, for us to fight against this cholera menace. Everybody, or all hands must be on deck. Because, you know, those days, when we were in the villages or even in the cities, early in the morning, by 8, 9 o'clock, even if your parents will go to the farm, they have to clean the environment very well before they leave. Because there's a group called, I think, the Public Health Inspectorate. We call some are called town council people. They come around to ensure that our environment are clean. Sometimes they even go to the extent of even going into your tank or to ensure that you don't have this...
what do you call the mold?
Yes, in your tank. And you ask yourself, what are these people these days? What are they? These days, people live, you see garbage around. People are selling, there's a garbage around there, just where they are selling, very close to them. So you ask yourself, what are the city authorities doing? That's how come the President is saying that as a citizenry, everybody, all hands must be on deck. And he's showing that example when he was demonstrated at, I think, in Accra recently, by going to the gutter, cleaning the gutter, just to show example that we need to clean our environment.
The president going to the gutter?
Yes.
Was exemplary?
Yes, just to show to the people that, yes, we have to do it ourselves. Because there's no way you expect that the presidency should come and clean your environment for you.
Why don't we enforce the laws? Why don't we enforce the laws and make sure the rabbit...
I'll get there. That's how come he's saying that everybody must be concerned. Because that's how come, if you look at the AMA, as an individual, you've come to Accra. And when you come to Accra, you just decide that you want to settle anywhere. And you'll be there for several years. One, what is the AMA doing at the time? Because I believe strongly that it is not the same mayor that was there when these people settled. So it is not an individual issue. It is an institutional failure. Yeah. Because AMA has been there for several years. And it's not the same mayor that is the head of the AMA for a very long time. So it means that he is just trying to ensure that the right is done. But the question is, you eject people just in a day. That's another part of it. Even though they are there illegally, there are processes and procedures of ejecting people.
So what's your view?
The place. I believe strongly that the appropriate procedures must be followed. I don't know whether in the...
So what, the resident should have been given notice?
Yeah, yes, in the bylaws of the assembly. There are clear rules regarding ejections in the bylaws themselves as to whether they are supposed to give the people 2 months or 3 months. If that is done, then the mayor is right. Yeah. But if that is not done, then I think that we need to look at we need to put a human face in whatever policy that we are implementing, because we are all Ghanaians and we know the situation of this country. I don't think that anybody at all would just like to go and settle there if he has a better alternative. So in looking at it, in trying to develop the city, we must find alternative or resettling people. And that is the responsibility of the mayor, to ensure that there are alternative programs, social interventions programs to resettle people who are in the heart of the city. That
you're speaking like an MP
city very clean.
who has a constituents to look after.
Exactly.
And I like that about you, because you're very dispassionate about this very subject.
Yes, because ordinarily I would not like people of my constituents to be displaced like that. We need to give them sufficient information. If the assembly, the bylaw says 3 months, then we have to give them 3 months. If they say 2 months, I don't know what their bylaw says anyway. But as a country, we need to look at our sanitary situation, because people are just behaving recklessly. And we need to look at it. Now the cholera is here. Look at the amount of money that we are spending on taking care of cholera, because it's free. It's free, and it's government money. We can use that money to do other things.
Well, Jason, the Metropolitan Municipal and, of course, the District Assembly, they spend huge sums of money on sanitation each day. And, well, even in arrears of paying even the waste companies. And the waste companies also need to run their businesses. Now, do we need a policy mind shift, so to speak, about how we are managing all these, and invariably how this is also reflecting on the number of cases we're having as cholera as a public health issue?
Yeah, I think like the Honorable said, there is a total failure in...
Just call him Bright.
Yeah, Bright said. There's a total failure in policy and its implementation. Because what the AMA is doing, and what I'm sure that all the other metro authorities would be doing, would actually just end up as a zero-sum game. Because if you find a bunch of people here and you think they are creating filth, and you move in there, you dislodge them, and you go back to sleep. After a year or two, you come back, they've moved back and settled on the plot of ground again, creating filth. What are you doing? You're just wasting the nation's resources. It is the way we've looked at the issue of waste management over the years. We only think, oh, this is rubbish. So we collect it and dump it somewhere, and it actually becomes a health hazard for the neighbors, the neighborhood, those living in that area. But elsewhere and globally, in the 21st century, waste has now become more like a commodity. It's even become a mine.
It's a resource.
Yes, where it's you know, invaginates into a sort of an integrated industry. You have compost coming out of it. You have recyclables like the aluminium and all the other metals. And it's a whole industry that employs
and even
people.
The quality.
You understand? Exactly. So if we want to manage waste sustainably, then we should be focusing majorly on waste recycling. There again, people's waste that they generate at home is no more filth that must be thrown away or left to cause cholera, but becomes a source of earning income, you know, for the citizenry and for the nation at large. So it is the approach that has failed us woefully. Yeah.
Perhaps, right. We seem to now focus the attention more on AMA because this is where the whole thing started. Now that the disease seems to have crossed boundaries and also affected communities outside the capital, it means that we need to have the whole local government system take a holistic view about it. Waste generation, how even they educate people in terms of how they separate waste at the home before dumping is also critical. Because, I mean, liquid waste is very much as waste as in itself. Yeah, I mean, it's no useful to anybody.
Yes.
In many respects, I'm not saying no.
Yes. Okay. You see, I personally have a problem with the way we manage waste in this country.
Okay.
In the sense that as an agriculture economy, as an agronomist myself, you see, I have a very difficult problem. Because if you look at the amount of money that we use to import fertilizers into this country, and we can have compost plants to ensure that at least it's going to serve two purposes.
Well, we have some run by private companies, but we can't even pay them enough for them to run their companies.
And I'm saying that if you compare the cost of money that we use to import fertilizers,
alternatively, we could have.
Yeah, and it's going to solve two problems. One, to ensure that our environment is clean, and we're going to use the compost to boost our
agricultural
production.
So then we need a policy direction on it.
So that is how come.
That's absent. And your government is in power.
And honestly speaking, it is not as if there are no experts in that area. What we need is to commit resources in that area. Because how can people be, how can government employ people to collect waste and pay them? I get worried when AMA is owing waste collectors. Because people are supposed to be, they're supposed to be paying us for the waste. You understand me? If you get serious compost plant, they're supposed to go around and look for the waste themselves. And that will reduce the kind of cost to the various metropolitan and municipal and district assemblies. If you have a serious compost plant working in this country, then AMA cost of organizing vehicles and companies to be conveying waste will reduce. So I think that holistically, they should look at how much they spend on paying contractors against establishing a compost plant, which will then be a business venture in itself. So that if you look at recently, because people, these waste companies are trying to purchase the plastic. You see a lot of people trying to gather the plastics. The way you see polythene, ice water rubber flying these days, you see that it has reduced drastically because people are organizing them and they are selling them to the recycling plant. So it has reduced drastically. So if you can be able to organize a very big plant, that will even boost agriculture production in this country. Because honestly, you know that if you use a compost to produce, it's more expensive than using a mineral fertilizer. That's like when you go to shops outside, you see organic against inorganic. You see vegetables that are produced organically, their prices are far, far, far higher than those that are produced through inorganic. Fertilizers are called inorganic manure. So when you use inorganic in production, the cost is less against organic. But Ghana here, the difficulty is that because the institutions are not working effectively, if you go in and even produce organic and you say it's organic, nobody will recognize it. So what I'm trying to say is that the Ministry of Local Government itself, maybe the assembly don't have the capacity to put up a compost plant. But the way sometimes, if you look at their deductions from the common fund of the various assemblies, they have the power to take some portion of the common fund of the various assemblies.
But it's all about policy direction, Jason.
Exactly.
And that's the point is that do we have the will? Because the will also translates into the commitments.
Yes, but the will is not there. Because the paradox is we are here with Bright, and he is at the heart.
No, he's not at the heart. He's a member of parliament.
Yes, I know. In fact, he belongs to a political party. He stood on their party ticket and went to parliament. You understand? That means He has a strong stake in that political party. He has
very.
Yes, and he would want them to do well. So instead of being here with me and crying, I am very positive that maybe from today he will move ahead and suggest to his people, the powers that be, that look, it is a fact, things are going awry. We are not doing the right things. We need that exigence. We need that resolve to tackle things right, do them right, and if they must be done well, because we have failed as a nation, policy-wise, implementation-wise, infrastructure-wise, everything-wise. And we have those who are at the realm of affairs complaining as much as we, those who are supposed to be looking up to them. And I just don't understand. It is quite paradoxical. We need to find out what is wrong at the top. So maybe Bright can shed a bit of light on that. Why are policies not being comprehensive? Why are the implementations not taking effect in the manner that we are discussing here in the studio? You know.